Courageous and wet people. I'm glad to be here today, and I'm glad to be here at the second annual NEDA Long Island event. Hopefully, in years to come, we will sanction the sun and we will be able to do the walk. I wanted to make some comments about Juliana and the courage that she had to both go through the recovery, come out on the other side, and tell you all about it, because that's really what we've been trying to do for the past 30 years. When I first got into this field of eating disorders 30 years ago, there wasn't a field, and there were very few places where people could get help. In fact, some of the people here from Mather are people that I know for that long of time, and we've really been working really hard to both get good treatment for eating disorders and to help people understand and make it more public. We live in a culture that precipitates eating disorders. When people don't feel good about themselves, they tend in this culture to want to change their body. So what we now know is there are two really strong components to the development of an eating disorder. This one is the culture, and the other one is the genetic predisposition. And Juliana spoke about a couple of those genetic predispositions. The genetic predisposition, and this might sound weird to everybody, but we now know, because we can map genes in a different way than we could 30 years ago, that perfectionism is a genetic predisposition, that the brain comparing itself to others is part of a genetic predisposition. Not everybody does that. That self-esteem is part of a genetic predisposition. Not everybody feels bad about themselves from birth or somewhere along the way. So what we now know is that eating disorders have a very strong genetic predisposition. We didn't know that long ago. And so people would just say, why don't you just fix it? How come you look this way, and how come you think this way, and how come you act this way? Well, because I have that genetic predisposition, almost like I have a genetic predisposition towards developing diabetes. So we now know that. And in addition to that genetic predisposition, the culture, which says you're not good enough unless you're thin enough or you look this way, is a trigger towards the genetic predisposition. So a culture that's more accepting, that's more diverse, that's more self-supporting, that doesn't work in numbers or images, would not trigger as much of the eating disorder predisposition. So I just want to get that piece of information out to everybody. Eating disorders are not a choice, but there is a choice to get better. Because we do know now that there are skills and ways in which you can train your your brain with these genetic predispositions to put them into positive things. So genetically predisposed to being very tenacious or very stubborn or very perfectionism, if applied to something like helping other people or researching things, that's what creates growth in the culture. But those predispositions applied to being thin or losing weight or being a certain number, that creates a smaller life. So I just wanted to share that current piece of information with everybody, and I wanted to let you know that the National Eating Disorders Association and the treatment centers that are here are all behind getting that word out, and for you all to be here, to stand here in the rain and say, we count, we're important, this matters, and we're going to continue to fight for the wellness of our friends and families, and to get the message out that eating disorders are not a choice, that they are serious mental illnesses, but that people can get better with the right treatment. So I want to thank you all for being here. There's lots of information at the tables. I hope you've all gotten there. And if not, you can find all these places online and get the information that you were hopefully going to get here without being wet. So thank you for coming. And who goes after me?
Thank you, Sondra. Right now, we're going to have Carrie announce the 3 top